Welcome, traveler. Come sit near my fire and let me tell you the story of the Ballad Singer. About a young mage called Leon who was a master of elemental magic, and what adventures and challenges fate prepares for him, and choices he have to take. And this is how the story begins. It all started in the far, far away continent called Hesperia.
For years now, peace has been reigning over the continent of Hesperia. The feats of ancient heroes, warriors, and magicians will live on as legends and children's bedtime stories. Everything is back to normal. Markets and trades are flourishing, raids of marauders are rare, and brigands have mostly taken to dwell in hidden groves and forests. However, wizards have lost control over their dark experiments. The Tower of Balinor has become the cradle of new races and monstrous creatures. They now roam free in the lands of Kael'Sanar and beyond. Leon, a powerful wizard withdrawn to the shadows, belongs to this world. Leon plans to carry out his obscure designs and bring back the darkness of his own past. He had studied at Balinor under the great wizard Raymond until he decided to take his own path. Leon would never forget the people who helped him survive when he was but a boy, age 6, just as he will never forget who took him away from his family, from everyone dear to him, and from his kingdom. Now, he feels the time has come to take everything back. Thanks to his magical talent, he's mastered all of nature's elements, but he has several choices to make. He could expand his powers. The task would set him on the research of the book that will allow him to learn a new type of sorcery bound to blood. His own master had revealed to him the existence of the manuscript. Or he could look for a tomb hiding a crucial artifact, a relic containing the blood of 2 ancient wizards. They both had the power to dominate all 4 of nature's elements, just as he. Of course, he could also recruit some allies. What would be better than befriending a dragon? A hooded figure trudges through the rain, supported by a cane just as tall as him. He has just left the Tower of Balinor and has no intention of turning back. He meditates on his ambitions and craves a new beginning for his life. His heart beats madly as he steps along the path. The dull sky, laden with clouds, mirrors the torment grasping his chest. Leon has a good soul, but he shall bear no limitations to achieve his goals. He faces 3 choices.
And Leon decided to find the tomb with the relic.
Leon enters the Rulath Forest, an area that has long served as the home of several outlaws. Reminiscent of his mentor's stories, he remembers that the tomb of Hesperia, the magician who had protected him as a child, should be here. The tomb guards a medallion containing the blood of 2 wizards who, like him, were able to control all 4 elements of nature. He must have it. Thanks to the instructions in the Blood Magic book, he will uncover the secrets that will allow him to fulfill his claim to power. Leon explores the darkest nooks, looking for telltale signs. A shadowy atmosphere surrounds him, as if he were inside a cemetery, or worse, an open-cast crypt. An ill feeling rushes through him, such as he has never felt in his entire life. After wandering for several hours, Leon finds 2 tombs. They are both just simple mounds of rock, with no apparent markings. However, opening the wrong one might wake up the dead. He examines the tombs more closely and finds a detail he hadn't noticed before. The first tomb seems to have some old, small, clotted blood stains, while the other displays normal signs of wear due to the effects of time.
And he decided to open the blood-sainted tomb.
The blood misled Leon. As he moves the first stone, an undead skeleton appears in front of him. He has the beat of one breath to make a decision, and his heart pounds in his chest. Leon, however, is not defeated by fear and invokes his magic.
And he summoned the water to help him.
The skeleton crumbles to the ground and dissolves, but a cloud rises from the bones. It takes a screeching and ghostly shape. It's a banshee, a witch of nightmares. A black, torn mantle shrouds the decaying green ghost. It is an irksome foe. Leon needs something to soften the ear-shattering sound of her penetrating cry, but all elements conduct sound. Creating a highly conductive speed barrier might turn her attack back upon the banshee herself. Leon can choose to employ a liquid, solid, or fizzy element, but he must also decide on the temperature at which to summon it. That's the only way he can survive this. He must act quickly to create a barrier around the specter before she unleashes her deadly wail. He needs to anticipate the banshee's strike, which could crush his eardrums and grasp his heart. The wrong choice will lead him straight to his death.
Solid, high temperature will help.
The wizard remembers that sound propagates faster through solids at high temperatures. He summons a granite wall encircled by a curtain of fire, which envelops the specter. Her cries are astounding, and Leon falls to the ground, covering his ears. Even though he made the right call, the banshee is overwhelmingly powerful, and he is stunned all the same. As he stands back up, he sees there is no trace of the wall, nor of the specter. Leon is frightened, but he then remembers of Daragost Layar's blood oath sworn on Hesperia's tomb. The blood stains on the tomb are a mere consequence. He takes the silver pendant. The medallion is divided into 3 sections. 2 contain red liquid, whereas the third is still empty, ready to receive more blood. Leon must now learn to master this type of magic. He's fascinated and can hardly wait.
And now is a good time to retrieve a book.
Leon decides to go after the Book of Blood Magic. He heads northwest for the city of Remagast, close to the border with the cold desert. He might find an old acquaintance there to start issuing his first commands. His journey proceeds smoothly, and after about 1 day, Leon crosses the city gates. His eyes meet a ghastly scene. Remagast is still in ruin. Triumvar Lotanor, the blood wizard who tried to take over Kael'Sanar, had dealt it a harsh blow. Though the wizard was defeated, he had been able to hide away the secrets of his sorcery. Leon had been able to gather such information due to being closely tied to the wizard's story. Their hearts were just as dark. He moves among the alleys of the city, heading to a tavern with a sign so badly faded that the name can no longer be read. He has the feeling that his man might be within those walls. The hall is crowded, and the noise is deafening. Nobody notices his entrance, save for a bald, pale head, which turns to face him. His pointed ears move as if they have a life of their own. Leon recognizes him right away and heads for the elf's table. Good day, Ankalimo.
Good day to you, Leon. What brings you here?
My design is moving forward, declares the wizard with ill-concealed pride.
What do you need me to do?
Head to Snelfos, gather the army, take the city, and ready yourselves to move against Balinor, Leon orders.
Has the time finally come?
Indeed.
What are you going to do?
Asks Ankalimo, intrigued. I will retrieve something which will render us invincible.
No time to lose, then.
We need to act now, declares Leon. Leon indulges in a night of restful sleep to restore his energy. After fleshing out the last details of his plan with Ankalimo, he resumes his journey to the north. First, however, he must carefully choose the enchantments he'll rely on. Triumvar Lotanor was able to bend all of nature's elements to his will, so he needs to be ready for any circumstance. As evening falls, the wolves' howls echo in the ominous landscape. The wizard comes across an imposing jet tower. Searching around the complex, he locates the door with surprising ease. Leon is skeptical. He had expected some sort of magical ploy to be hiding it. Perhaps all of Triumvar's enchantments were lifted upon his death. However, his sixth sense warns him that something isn't quite right. Examining the tower thoroughly, he finds the bones of a mouse, a trap appears to still be operational. Leon studies the corpse closely and analyzes the ground around it. He notices that the bones are broken and the soil seems to be overturned. The wizard must now choose which magic to use to safely enter the tower. Create a vortex to get to the windows high above the door. The window's shutters are open, and Leon enters the tower effortlessly. The room is pitch black, save for a single glimmer of light that shines on a desk. As Leon takes a step forward, the windows shut abruptly and everything fades to black. A heavy silence looms over the room. The only sound Leon can hear is a dripping noise that grows increasingly louder until it resembles that of a babbling brook. The water soaks Leon's feet, soon rising to his ankles. Even though he can't see anything, he must hurry. Leon feels his way around the room. Light a flame in the palm of the hand to light up the room. There must be something to stop the flow of the water. Searching the room, Leon finds an hourglass on the desk, the only object in the otherwise unadorned chamber. Leon tries to pick it up, but the base is fixed to the desk as a sort of lever device. The movement stops the water flowing in from above, and it starts to drain out through several nozzles that sit along the walls. Meanwhile, a door opens, pointing him towards a long and winding spiral staircase. It leads up to the top of the tower. Leon bolts in as the door shuts behind his back. This time, the room lights up completely. The chamber is circular in shape, and at its center lies a bookstand with a significant tome on top. Closing in, Leon reads the title, Blood Magic. Everything seems easy, perhaps too easy. But Leon has a shut door behind him, and there is no way out. Out of nowhere, a fire elemental appears, ready to jump on the sorcerer. Summon a water elemental to fight the guardian. Leon kills the guardian and takes the book. A secret door opens along the side of the tower, and he steps in. A row of torches lights his path. Even though he can't fathom how any of it is possible, 1,000 thoughts rush through his mind. He has faced many dangers, including death. However, he had done it. The tunnel takes him outside, from where Leon will resume his journey. Search for the dragon. Without hesitation, Leon decides to head to Laganasan. The cold desert is an inhospitable region inhabited only by outlaws. Its border is marked by an imposing metal fence. No one has ever been able to climb over it. Several barracks are placed along it, evenly spaced, with hosts of soldiers. Each troop is numbered. The changing of the garrison takes place but once a year. A patrol sees Leon and stops him. They warn him against heading across the border alone. Leon tries to pull rank as a sorcerer, meaning to persuade them to let him through. Instead, the soldiers surround him and escort him to the highest-ranking officer.
And this is?
The captain inquires.
He wouldn't say.
One of the soldiers replies.
Talk then, or I'll lock you up.
Answer his questions. My name is Leon. I'm a wizard of Balinor.
He speaks. What brings you so far from home?
My business is none of your concern.
You arrogant fool. I'll have you whipped before I'll throw you in the cell. Now answer my questions.
The captain of the guards is infuriated, and Leon doesn't like orders. The wizard must now decide whether to submit and start answering, or to attack. Summon a bundle of roots to strangle the others. Leon is fast, and the soldiers have no time to react. His hands are as quick as his tongue, and he unleashes the spell. Despite the devastating effects on his opponents, he is safe. The sorcerer smugly smirks. The maimed bodies of the foolish men lie on the ground, the smell of blood and guts beginning to taint the stale air of the barracks. He proceeds, exploring the territory. Once over the border, Leon explores the area. The ground is black, as if covered by volcanic ashes. and the climate is much colder than that of Kelsinar. Under a matte gray sky, dark sand and desolation goes on as far as the eye can see. Walking his tedious path, he chances upon a lonely traveler. The two spot each other from afar, but do not try to avoid the inevitable encounter. The traveler has scaly skin, and a forked tongue darts in and out of his mouth as if he were a snake. He stops in front of Leon. "Who are you?" he asks. "Someone very dangerous if you get in my way. A friend, if you choose to trust me." "Your name is?" "Leon Munar. You may have heard of me." The other doesn't reply. His eyes open wide, and he falls to his knees. "Now I recognize you. Your fame and your past precede you. I am Ferion, your humble servant." Cautiously, Leon asks him to explain. "Everyone knows of the last great wizard able to dominate the elements. What brings you here?" "I have my reasons. I should kill you for the mere fact you have seen me, but perhaps I won't." Leon's threat sparks fear in Ferion, startling him. "I am sure you'll find me useful if you spare me." The wizard seems to mull over the plea and decides to test him. "I'm looking for the dragon who dwells in these lands. Do not question me, just answer, as I have no time to lose." "You need to head north, my lord. You'll find a black hill surrounded by bones. There you'll find a cave. That's where the reptile lives. No one dares approach it." "If you have spoken the truth, wait for me in the city of Snelfos. I'll reward you fairly. If you are lying, however, I will seek you out and I will kill you." "How will I cross the border, though? It's under surveillance." "Barracks number 7 is empty." Without adding anything else, Leon resumes his walk to the location divulged by the creature. After some time, Leon finds the hill surrounded by bones, just as the Snake Man had described it. The glacial cold is in sharp contrast with the burnt color of the dragon's lair. A strange feeling grips Leon's stomach, but he doesn't give in. He knows which way to go. A nauseating smell comes straight from the cave's center. There, he finds a huge reptile curled up and resting. It is motionless, snoring blissfully. This is the moment of truth. Here, Leon could find a powerful and nearly invincible ally. He enters the cave. The wizard decides to step into the cave, and an eye is soon upon him. The dragon rises abruptly, spreading its mighty wings that take up the entire den. It roars and bellows a flame upwards. The dragon is imposing. Next to it, Leon is merely an ant. Its back is covered in scales, while its belly resembles that of a snake, slimy and gross. Leon's gaze follows the coils of fire as they rise. He notices that the hill's ceiling is open to the skies, allowing the creature to come and go as it pleases. A primal fear grips the wizard's heart, but his determination prevails. The situation is critical, and he must act now. Conjure a wall of water to shield himself from the dragon's first strike. The wall of water conjured by Leon shields him from the blast of fire, confusing the dragon. Leon must seize this moment and decide whether to hurl a volley of water blasts at its head to knock it out without wounding it, or to block the movement of its limbs by summoning roots from the ground. Roots from the ground. Leon's idea isn't a bad one. Despite its size, the animal can no longer move. This allows the wizard to enter the dragon's mind. As he tries this, however, The sorcerer notices that the strength of the beast's paws are allowing it to unravel the cage of roots. He needs to give up on his attempt to overpower the dragon's mind and find another solution quickly. Try to freeze the dragon by creating an ice storm. His play succeeds, and the dragon collapses to the ground, exhausted. Leon approaches the reptile and lays a hand on its snorting snout. Leon gathers a state of utmost concentration as he was taught by the wizards of Amarin. He exploits his telepathic abilities to sneak into the mind of the now tame beast. He conveys the message that he is a friend who simply needs its help. The dragon is confused, and the wizard manages to flatter it quite easily. Despite its colossal size and devastating power, it is still just a simple-minded animal. Even though Leon has gained control over the dragon, he can't take advantage of all its talents just yet. Therefore, he decides to go back to pursue the other aspects of his plan. Now that he's established a lasting bond, he'll be able to summon the beast to his side whenever he shall want.
Several years have passed since Leon set out to seek his obsessions. His stubbornness resulted in a war for the conquest of Kael'Sinar. However, he has yet to acquire all the knowledge he needs to dominate the nation, and with time, the entire world. As part of Kael'Sinar has fallen under his heel, the resistance has risen to stop him. The head of the rebels has hidden in the Ismaran forest. He has called for a council to end the war and destruction wreaked by Leon. He is aware that people need a hero to inspire them if he is to gain back the trust that continues to falter day after day. The head of the rebels is none other than Raymond, the wizard who once ruled the Tower of Balinor. He turns to a ranger to search far and wide for the only person who could take on the role of such a hero, the famed Daragast Layar. As Raymond mulls over the desperate situation, he sips a glass of wine in his austere tent. He indulges in a singular, quiet moment before the volunteer for Daragast's search is called inside. And Coran, a young, green-skinned woman, steps up. She's a sylph and an expert tracker. She belongs to a new race, another failed magic experiment. However, instead of isolating herself from the world, she wishes to be part of it, so as to give her life meaning. And Coran wishes for acceptance. She longs to leave behind all the years of abuse and mistreatments. She has joined the resistance, seeking deliverance from her past.
And Corin, I'm glad you've come forward for this mission.
I want to help the cause, Raymond. Sylph replies. Where do you suggest I begin?
The most recent intel we have dates a few years back and comes from 3 different locations. You could try looking in the city of Akma, the forest of Rulath, or in Rost. Unfortunately, we can't tell which are trustworthy.
I'll depart immediately, Ancoran declares.
I'll be eagerly waiting for your return.
Ancoran bows to Raymond and takes her leave to start packing for her journey. She needs supplies, weapons, and money. But first, she needs to choose where she's heading. Rulath Forest. The walk to Rulath Forest was long. Before you is a dark maze of trees and entangled branches. You'd rather not go into the woods now, as it's evening. But you need to find Daragast as soon as possible, so you wander into the forest. The path unravels between the trees, and as you advance, you hear some wolves howling. You rush forward as the call of the wild beasts grows closer. Finally, you spot a trembling light in the distance. Perhaps the window of a cabin? You hope to get there before the wolves are upon you, but it's too late. 3 pairs of yellow eyes point your way, and you'll have to face them. Hurl a volley of knives. Woodland predators, the best strategy is to strike first, and quickly. You can't show any fear. You unsheathe your knives with both hands and hurl them in one single fluid movement. You hit the first 2 wolves straight between the eyes. The third beast immediately stops growling, turns tail, and runs. Nature's perils seem to have come to an end, but your ranger's instincts suggest otherwise. Rulath might still have a few surprises in store yet. However, you're also in a hurry to find out who lives in that cabin. You see two paths before you. One is a stone road, while the other looks like a beaten track. You close in and study both carefully before deciding which one to take. You may fall into a trap. The stone path is clearly the work of men. The other looks more like the result of animals passing by. Both could be safe, but you never know. Beaten track. The path you've chosen seems to lead away from the cabin. It keeps changing its course. You're afraid you might run into more wolves or perhaps some other nocturnal creatures. Darkness is falling fast, and even though you're an expert, you'd rather avoid traveling like this. Keep going. Your perseverance pays off. You almost didn't expect to see the cabin's light again. You've arrived directly on the opposite side. The window lights give away that someone inside is awake. Another howl echoes in the forest. You shiver and quicken your step. You're so close now that if someone opened the door in time, you wouldn't have to face another fight. You approach the cabin and breathe a sigh of relief. As you knock, the door opens on its own. Inside, the light of several candles reflects on hundreds of glass vials, diffusing a red glare. There are so many you can barely count them. An old blind woman sits at the center of the room.
I've been expecting you, Ancora and the Sill.
She whispers with a squawking voice. How do you know my name?
I know many things, and I foresee others. I'm rarely wrong.
Are you a seer?
Yes.
Can you help me? You ask her, your heart racing.
It will cost you 2 golden coins, 1 for each eye.
Without a single word, you place the coins on the table. You've come prepared. I'm looking for a man, a warrior. His name is Daragast Lyar.
There is no one with that name.
He's dead then. You shake your head desperately.
That's not what I said.
What do you mean?
You need to ask the right questions.
Where can I find the person who lived by that name?
That's better.
The old woman smiles and continues.
Look for him in Rost.
What's he doing in Rost?
He plays a different instrument, but the song remains the same.
You'd like to ask more questions, but the old lady raises her hand.
Rest on the straw mattress in the back of the room. You'll resume your journey tomorrow morning.
Your instincts suggest not to object, and you go lie down. The following morning, you wake up to find the house deserted, and you feel empty somehow. You resume your path right away. Head to Rost. The village is quite rural and is mainly dwelt in by farmers and shepherds. You have no idea who to look for. The intel you've gathered is scarce. The only thing you have is your man's name. Rost's inhabitants don't seem to fear you, even though your look is definitely out of the ordinary. Perhaps they've seen strange creatures already. You ask a few people for Daragast Lyar, but no one can help you. You get to the blacksmith's shed, and a grizzled man with a toned body quickly glances at you. He continues striking at the horseshoe he's working on with his hammer. The metal seems to be singing.
How may I help you?
The blacksmith asks. I'm looking for a man.
Name?
Daragast Lyar. The blacksmith nearly loses his grip on the hammer.
He's dead.
Something tips you off, and you continue to press the man. I don't think so. Your reaction speaks volumes. The blacksmith threatens you with his hammer, his eyes flaming.
You'd better listen to me and go back where you came from.
Calm down. I didn't mean to tick you off. I'm a friend, no ill intentions. The blacksmith looks down and continues his work.
The man you're looking for left long ago. I don't think he shall ever be back.
He replies evasively. Kael'Sinar needs him.
No. The rebels need him. You have no hope.
At least we fight!
And you shall die. Every last one of you.
If Daragast should ever show up, tell him he can find me in the Ismaran forest with Raymond. You turn on your heels and leave, without waiting for his reply.
You are sitting on the throne in the city of Remagast, north of Hesperia. You've become the undisputed sovereign of nearly the entire nation. Despite some rebellions and uprisings, you even managed to subdue Balinor, the city of wizards. Now, your goal is to reach Satrapor, your former dwelling, where you were born and where everything first began. Memories start rushing through your head, tormenting you. You can barely recognize your parents' faces across the mist of the past. Remembering your mentors is much easier. Dargast, Raymond, and Hesperia, the witch. The latter warded you for a long time, and you owe her much more than just your life. She died for a greater cause, leaving your heart brimming with pain, even though you were only 6. The throne room is deserted. You threw out all the servants and guards so as to freely confer with your first ally, Ancalimo. As you're lost in thought, you notice the huge bronze doors opening from the corner of your eye. In walks a hairless figure with pointed ears, heading straight towards you along the granite hallway. Ancalimo's white skin contrasts remarkably against the jet-black columns rising to the ceiling. The elf kneels at your feet, silently waiting for your signal. You're late. Were you drinking at the tavern, or were you busy with a whore? You mockingly ask.
I was drinking whilst having my way with a whore, my lord.
He replies, an amused smirk coloring his face. You both burst into laughter, the mood momentarily lightened. You need to entrust several crucial tasks to Ancalimo, so it would be wise to figure out your priorities. The resistance is gathering south of Kael'sin and needs to be dealt with. It's being led by Raymond, a powerful magician that also happens to be your old mentor. In the meantime, you must also ready the army to take Satrapor. You need to collect supplies and choose trustworthy commanders, and will be marching until winter's end. To successfully achieve your goals of conquest and peace, you need to find a magical artifact. It once belonged to you, but has been lost for quite some time now. However, you might know where to start looking. You must choose. Send Ancalimo to retrieve the magic artifact. You need to track down a magic artifact, a weapon I once owned, which is now lost. It is called the Sword of Ruin. It's a rapier, of which the hilt is adorned by 4 stones. Each stone is a different color, representing one of nature's elements. Ancalimo raises his head, his interest piqued.
Where did you last see it, my lord?
I brandished it at Balinor as I was fighting Raymond when we were taking the city. During the skirmish, it was buried by the tower's ruins. Our magic devastated the city, and with the confusion looming over it, I couldn't retrieve it at the time. I came back for it a few days later, but it was gone.
Then that's where I'll start, and where I will gather all the information I need. I will be back with the Sword of Ruin.
Without replying, Ancalimo stands up and beats a fist on his chest, taking his leave. You remember your fight with Raymond all too well, and picture the most crucial moments. The Sword of Ruin shielded you against your opponent's magic. An unparalleled power was unleashed on that tower. Death and devastation were its consequences. You ran, covered in blood. You were barely able to escape the less powerful, but much cleverer wizard. You took the city, thanks to the army's might, and your personal guard got there just in time to save you. The door closes, bringing you back to the moment at hand. Now, you can take care of other matters, just as important. Head to your private quarters to read the Blood Magic book. You want to further your powers, and the book has the knowledge you require. You walk through the hallways, guarded by soldiers. They jump at your passage, respectfully saluting you. You don't waste your time on them. They're low-level soldiers, not wizards of your league. The hallway leading to your chamber is deserted and dimly lit, as always. You reach the threshold of your quarters when you hear a noise behind your back. Suddenly, you turn and are faced by a black-clothed figure. You can't tell whether it's a man or a woman, but it moves stealthily, lethally. Your opponent's size isn't particularly robust, but the assassin wields a knife in its right hand. You are barely an arm's length apart. Melee. Daragost's lessons weren't lost with time. The assassin wasn't expecting this reaction and is surprised as you take his arm, losing precious seconds. He was so confident that a wizard wouldn't be able to handle a close-quarter fight. Instead, he found Leon, the man who will make the whole of Kael'son tremble. Twisting his arm, you point the blade against your assassin, stabbing him in the groin. As you sever the artery, blood spurts everywhere, staining your clothes. The fight's noise catches the attention of the guards, and they rush to your aid. They arrive just in time to clean up the aftermath of the slaughter. You enter your room, fired up by what just happened. You'll have to rethink the whole deployment of guards throughout the palace. The rebels have managed to infiltrate, and you wonder about their plots. Their threat is real, and you need to annihilate them, showing them no mercy. You still have to wait for Ankalimo's return before deciding on what to do next, and it will take a while. You'll use this time to work on blood magic and organize your next campaign. Few days later, you look out your room's window, breathe in the clean air of morning, and close your eyes. Now more than ever, blood magic can come to your aid. You take the medallion hanging by your neck, the one you retrieved from the tomb. 2 parts are already filled with blood, and 1 is still empty. You know what should be done, but not quite how. The instructions are kept in the book you took from Triumvir's tower. You go back to the bookstand in your bedroom. The time has come to find out how to become the most powerful wizard of all time. Your days are long and lonely, but you make good use of them. Being you isn't easy. Always having to remember you hold many people's fates within your hands. Even though you haven't looked back once, it doesn't mean you've never thought of the consequences of your actions. You've already suffered for many of them. However, it's time to take a new path. It's time to move south. You walk through your palace, up to a wooden threshold, the entrance to the war room. As you enter, you're welcomed by a torch-lit hall and a large map hanging on the north wall. It depicts the continent of Hesperia, its cities marked by different badges. The center of the chamber is dominated by a massive table of carved wood adorned by the same symbols on the map. Hills, cities, and mountains are in relief. The war room allows you to visualize the terrain structure, the roads the army will have to take, and the ones most appropriate for provisioning. Balinor, Snelfos, Ormalin, and Ranin are now under your command. They will supply you with anything your men might need. Despite unforeseen attacks by the rebels, you deem that the roads won't be hard to travel. The only question is whether to go through the Ismarin forest or to head for the Flumar Mountains, crossing the pass and conquering Alanbor, circumventing the forest, and going towards Satrapor. Ismarin. You plan to head straight through the forest. It might be a shortcut to Satrapor. Apparently, the rebels are gathered there. You could get rid of them and take back your old city with just one maneuver. Then, you could either leave the task of governing Kael'son up to someone else, or you could go on to conquer all of Hesperia. The idea is tempting, but it has a striking resemblance to Triumvar Lotanar's goal. This realization takes you back, grieving you. If it weren't for him, you would have spent your childhood with your parents, and your life would be completely different. You'd probably never have become a wizard. Although overthinking won't get you anywhere, your train of thought persuades you to improve your skills. You need to study the blood magic book further. Therefore, you head back to your quarters and sit at the desk. The volume has an odd leather binding, not unlike human flesh, but you'd rather not find out. You've already read most of the manual and managed to master every passage of it. Each facet that governs this magic, forbidden throughout all Balinor. The theory was easy enough to learn. It only took you a few years. Now, it's time to start practicing. You linger on the parts that illustrate how to increase your power and intensify your skills. After all, magic comes from body heat, and blood is the vital catalyst which allows power to flow through one's body. You focus on one segment in particular. As explained in the previous chapters, blood is the vital source of every magic. Our body heat is due to the circulation of this fluid within us. Thanks to it, we can perform one or more enchantments preserving our energy. Using blood magic means intensifying one's power. It makes us stronger and more stable while creating enchantments. The first time a sacrifice is required, the being we choose to kill must die by the hands of whomever wishes to gain such power, and the sacrifice must be performed through magical means. No result can be achieved through killing the creature in any other way. Its heart is needed. It shall be removed and eaten, raw and in full. This will bring about an important change in our body, and we shan't sacrifice any other creatures to conjure blood magic. The more powerful the creature we sacrifice, the more power we shall obtain. Our power will grow further if we acquire blood from other creatures as well. The following is a practical example of how to acquire blood magic. You browse through the following pages with piqued interest. There are several illustrations of wizards killing animals, absorbing their energy. Some human sacrifices are also pictured and narrated in minute detail. Finally, the book describes the effect produced by this magic on the body of the wizard who employs it. It seems painful, but worth it. There's nothing more you can do while waiting for your dragon to arrive. Besides, marching on Satrapur, the bond between your magic and the creature's feral power could spare the lives of many of your men. You look for your sacrificial victim, animal. To avoid grieving your people, you decide to sacrifice an animal. You head to the palace's stables with your staff and a dagger. You dismiss the servants and enter with nonchalance. Of all the beasts lodged inside, you eye the white stallion in the last box. Closing in, all the horses start whinnying boisterously. You can use just 2 elements to finish the beast quickly. Earth. You opt for an earth spell, which is the best option. You beat your staff on the ground, and an earth spear springs from the earth, piercing the horse's stomach. The poor beast crashes to the ground, whinnying and panting with glassy eyes, using the last of its life force to kick out around it. You wait for the horse to take its last breath before entering its stable box. Its heartbeat is now increasingly feeble. Its agony looks infinite to you. Once the stallion is dead, you take your dagger and carve its belly, starting from the magically induced wound. You pull out its heart, which is still warm, soft. You need to eat all of it, and fast. It's revolting as it is, and you're afraid you'll vomit it all up if it gets any colder. You start consuming the organ. Even though you can't help gagging, you pull through and keep chewing and swallowing. You're caked in blood, but it doesn't seem to bother you. You're focused on the macabre meal. The moment you finish, your arms tighten and tingle. Your bones seem to stretch beyond their limit. The pain is excruciating, and you grit your teeth to keep from screaming. You can't risk anyone seeing you now. 2 large bone spikes suddenly burst out from the palms of your hands. You can barely contain a cry of pain. The spurs withdraw immediately, and you feel they're bound to your will. The pain subsides, and you recover. You have no idea how long you've been in the stable, but you're exhausted. As you get back on your feet, you take stock of your conditions. You are bound to be noticed, so you conjure a water column to wash away the blood stains. The stable boys will discover the stallion's corpse, but they won't dare ask anything about it. They'll think it to be the work of some other vicious beast, and definitely not your doing. Reinvigorated, you go back to your chambers. This revelation on blood magic suggests you could do so much more than simply taking Satrapor back. As you walk through the hallways of the palace, you think of your next move. You could study blood magic further and grow your powers to new limits, even though it'd take years and you'd have to give up on your aims of conquest. Or you could use this new knowledge and exploit it for your main goal. Proceed with the conquest of Satrapor. All the ups and downs you've been through so far have seriously tested your limits. You feel different. The new powers you've acquired are exciting. You are more powerful than Triumvar, but this awareness somewhat troubles you. Even though your intentions are noble, power is corrupting. The choices you'll make won't just determine your future, they'll affect you personally as well. Rest. You'll need it. Tomorrow will be a demanding day, and the matters at hand don't ever seem to stop. Your chamber is dark, and you're alone, like all other nights. You would like some female company, could never establish an enduring relationship. Sleep seems like a quiet, sweet hideaway. However, it deceives you all too soon. You're restless, sweating. Dreams crowd your mind as you go back to your childhood. You're in Satrapor, in your parents' palace, the one you would like to take back. The walls echo with sounds from a fight. You try to run through the secret tunnels, but you're alone. There's no trace of your mentors, nobody to help you. Dogs bark behind you, chasing you. Their bloodshot eyes glow in the darkness, fangs ready to tear you to pieces. You keep running, breathless, turning at every corner to leave the growling and drooling beasts behind. You lose your sense of direction. Unable to see and panicked, you fall into a pit. It's not too deep. Luckily, you only bruise your cheekbone. This was odd. Normally, when you dream of falling, you wake up with a start. This should have been the case, yet here you are. Chills running through your spine. You're the victim of a spell, and you can't help but wonder if it's a consequence of everything you've just been through. You look up, but there's only darkness. The dogs are gone, and the pit's brim, which didn't seem so far earlier, now towers above you. Suddenly, a wooden door appears, 2 torches lighting its knocker. You're still just a 6-year-old child in your dream, but your mind reasons as an adult. You could climb up and head back. The wall offers some footholds, or you could open the door and keep going. If magic is in fact influencing your dream as you think it is, any mistake in this ethereal world could be fatal. Open the door. You're but a child. Such a climb is out of the question. Therefore, you open the door, ready to face whatever lies beyond it. You walk into a wide circular room, fully illuminated. A huge creature is waiting for you in the center. Even sitting, it must be some 10 feet high. You are charmed by its enormous power, yet it chills you to your very bones. How could you oppose such a being if it were to harm you? His body is the strangest thing you've ever seen. It embodies the semblances of many creatures which you could never identify at a glance. The chimera looks at you, smiling. He has an old man's head with thick, white hair and eyes azure as ice. His sharp teeth could tear anything to shreds. The right arm looks like a gorilla's, whereas his left arm is an elephant's trunk. The torso is plumed, not unlike an ostrich, and the legs are feline.
Welcome, Leon. I've been waiting for you.
He greets you with a deep voice.
Who are you?
It's the first time you hear your child's voice. It's exactly the one you had when you were 6. You can't hide your fear. It seeps through your scared boy's question.
Someone who has felt a quiver in magic. Today, your actions have perturbed the whole world. You encountered a superior being, and I need to verify you are indeed worthy.
The chimera replies.
Why? Magic is part of my world. I become strong enough to use it however I prefer, and I won't abide by anyone's authority.
You reply, angry. The creature smiles, showing yet again its fearful teeth.
There is always someone higher who needs to exercise control. I've been called the Devourer of Dreams, but many wizards have called me by different names.
You shiver once more. You've heard rumors about this monster, but you didn't think he really existed. The creature doesn't belong to the physical world, merely to an ethereal one. It was created by superior beings to limit the magical abilities of mankind. Anyone who met him didn't live long enough to tell the tale. The only information you have about him are from Valinor, merely pieces of text you've never studied thoroughly. Despite this, you do remember it goes by another name as well.
Abomination.
Yes, I've been called that by some mortals too. However, I only exist thanks to you. Maybe I was given this name so that humans would feel less guilty. You wizards have committed terrible crimes.
Silence falls as you try to remember anything at all that could help you against this creature. He is one of the most dangerous beings on the magical plane. However huge and mighty, he doesn't rely on strength to destroy his victims. He's a guardian god, a supreme ruler of magical arts. Even though he acts through dreams, in his presence, the consequences fall on reality as well.
Did you bring me here?
Yes, I had to test you.
Can I refuse?
Do you see any doors to walk out? Or do you happen to know a way to wake up and never meet me again?
The abomination caustically replies. You turn to the door you came in from, but only find a brick wall in its place.
Well then, what is this test about?
Your intelligence will be the key. Otherwise, I'll devour your flesh and your magic with it. The only thing that will be left of you in the world will be your memory.
You are in his realm with his rules. You take a deep breath and muster your courage.
Shall we begin?
The chimera bursts into a low, throaty laugh. You're so afraid you can barely hold your bladder. You wonder if he chose to bring you there as a child.
You've already passed your first trial. You managed to reach me. Now, let's test your intellect. An ogre kidnaps a princess, and a knight runs to save her. The ogre shows the knight 2 doors. One hides the princess, the other hides a starving tiger. The door on the left has a sign that reads, "Behind this door lies the tiger." A sign on the right door reads, "The princess is behind a door." Only one of the signs is true, the ogre adds. Where is the princess? Think wisely before you answer, or I will eat you.
You hate riddles, but you're sure you won't get out of this nightmare alive if you don't answer correctly. Behind this door lies the tiger.
The princess is in the left door. The other sign, the princess is behind a door, is most definitely true. Therefore, the other one is false.
The abomination mumbles hoarsely. The trunk-shaped arm drops to the ground as if it were cut off, but there's no blood.
Very well, Leon, but I'm not done just yet. Let's continue with the next riddle. A crossroads leads to two different villages. The inhabitants of one speak only the truth. The inhabitants of the other can only lie. A wayfarer wants to visit the village of truth and stops a passerby. What question should he ask to know exactly where he needs to go? Think wisely before you answer, or I will eat you.
This keeps getting harder. The Chimera loves debates on truths and falsehoods. You have several answers to pick from, but only one is correct. Can you take me to your village?
Your answer is correct,
says the abomination, while the other arm falls to the ground with a thud. You smile, certain you've passed the test. How could he capture you now, without arms?
Let's continue.
In a cold sweat, you wonder how many more riddles you must answer.
Answer me this, Leon. A king decides to offer a large sum of money to any subject who can tell him a clever lie. Hundreds of people parade to the king. Someone says he's been to the moon, while others claim to be able to walk through fire without burning. But the king is not amused. Finally, the poorest farmer steps up, and after hearing him, the king awards him the prize. What did the farmer say?
You're in a tough spot once again. You need the riddles to tear the monster to pieces, mostly because you're disarmed, and you don't think magic could be the solution to your problems. You have only one way out. What will you tell the abomination? Your late father owed me a lot of money.
Congratulations, Leon. Yet another correct answer. As a matter of fact, if the king admits the farmer's lying, he must give him the money. If he accepts it as the truth, you must still give him money.
The monster's torso drops to the ground, detaching from the rest of the body. The head continues to levitate. Even the legs don't move. Judging by the looks of it, you still have 3 riddles left. You need to stay focused.
Let's proceed to our next enigma. There are only 2 hairdressers in the leprechaun's town, Sage and Bilberry. Sage owns a wonderful saloon. She offers her clients amazing chocolates and always sports great haircuts. Bilberry, on the other hand, has awful haircuts. Her saloon is messy, and even though she doesn't smoke, her ashtray is always brimming. Who would you choose to cut your hair for the Flowers Festival?
It looks like this time the answer is obvious. You only have 2 options, and good chances to succeed. Bilberry.
Bilberry, for 2 reasons. First, the ashtray is always full. If she doesn't smoke, it means many leprechauns visit the saloon. Second, if there are only 2 hairdressers, it means Sage cuts Bilberry's hair and vice versa. If Bilberry's haircuts are bad, it means Sage is a poor hairdresser. So I'd be better off going to Bilberry's saloon.
Even though the creature no longer has hands, he applauds your answer, laughing enjoyably. He's having fun, despite the fact you're literally tearing him to pieces.
Good job, Leon. Now I only have 1 leg left. Let's move on to my next question. You have 50 anemones, 50 edelweiss, and 2 wicker baskets. You need to separate them so that when picking one flower from each basket, you have the highest odds of taking two enemies. How will you split them?
Mathematics was a fundamental subject at Balinor, but you've never loved it.
Take all the time you need,
Says the Abomination, smacking his lips. He's already tasting his meal.
I'll put just one anemone in a basket and all other flowers in the other. This way, I'm sure I'll take the right flower from one basket, and I'll have almost a 50% chance from the other.
You reply proudly. With another moan by the being, the second leg disappears. Only the head remains, and it keeps smiling.
Great. Now for the final riddle. Answer this last one correctly, and we shall never meet again. You'll be worthy to use your powers as best you see fit. Be very careful, or your life will be mine. A talking cat declares, all talking cats are liars. Does he speak the truth, or is he lying?
Again with truth and lies. However, this time it's a question of wits. You've come this far. You can't give up now. It's impossible to say.
The way the enigma has been expressed, it's impossible to say.
You tell the Abomination. Suddenly, his head disappears. A hole instantly appears in the wall you're facing, and a dazzling light from within blinds you. Without any ado, you walk through it, delighted by the end of this nightmare. However, as you exit on the other side, hoping to wake up, you find something unexpected. You're still in the dream, and you have new tests to overcome.
Hello, Leon. It's good to see you again.
Your heart skips a beat. The woman is beautiful and young. Her slim body and her seductive curves take your breath away. The woman's mane, unmistakable and white as snow, contrasts the freshness of her face.
Hesperia.
You whisper. You run to her, and you both hug tight. You've longed for her so much, looking for her maternal gestures, which nobody was able to give you. You grew up an orphan. She was the only one, together with Daragast and Raymond, who stood by you. You lost her all too soon. Hesperia stood up against Triumvar Lotanor's fury.
You're just like how I remembered you.
You whisper, as tears run down both your faces.
I couldn't say the same about you, Leon.
She replies, drying her face.
Changed, and not how I would have hoped.
Her voice is disappointed.
You've become just like Triumvar, if not worse. We fought to protect you from his madness. I gave my life for you. Is this how you repay me? Trying to subdue other peoples? Using magic for your own gain rather than good?
I just want to take back what's mine. Satrapur is my home, my land.
And what are you doing now? You fought Raymond, conquered cities among cries and blood, and still you are not satisfied. I need to stop you.
Hesperia's words deeply hurt you, but you have no time for self-pity. She attacks immediately, summoning an earth elemental, her dominating element. It's solid and massive, a fearsome foe. However, you have a huge advantage. You can use all 4 elements. Only one is fit to oppose Earth. You summon an air elemental. Hesperia's creature is too massive and solid to oppose another element. Another Earth elemental surely wouldn't be powerful enough to beat it. She specializes in Earth magic, and you wouldn't have stood a chance. On the other hand, an air elemental might consume and annihilate the rocky creature. The two monsters fight a fierce battle, but ultimately, air prevails. A whirlwind destroys the opposing elemental, scattering pieces of Hesperia's conjuring all over. As the battle comes to an end, you lose control of your creature, which attacks the witch. Air blades tear her to pieces, and finally, it dissolves.
I'm sorry, Hesperia.
Tears stream down your cheeks, but your determination doesn't falter. Suddenly, everything becomes dark. A white door appears in the sea of darkness. You strain to stand up and walk through it. You wake up with a start in your bed. The sheets are drenched in your sweat. Your bones hurt, but you try to get up anyway. The sunlight filters through the windows, welcoming you to a new day. Judging by the looks of it, you think it might already be late in the morning, and you have many things to attend to. Your real journey to your destiny is about to start. You call upon the servants and order them to draw you a warm bath and prepare some clean clothes. When you're done, you wield your sword and your staff. As you're about to leave the palace, a roar vibrates the air outside, causing a chorus of outcries by the city's inhabitants. You quickly figure out what is happening and establish a mental connection to your dragon. This psychic bond you have with the creature allows you to see through its eyes, as well as perceive its thoughts, and bend the creature's will. As you move to leave the palace, you order the guards not to harm your powerful ally. Once outside, you look up, uninterested in the panicking people in the streets. You command the creature to land in the square in front of the palace's entrance. The dragon replies, growling loudly, complying with your wish, landing in front of you with a loud thud. The dragon's eyes are lively and ravenous, but it bows down its head to you, so low its snout touches the ground, whining like a puppy waiting to be petted. You approach your pet as the bystanders stare at you in silent awe and reach out to caress the creature's nose. "It has been too long, my friend," you whisper. The tension is eased, but many people are still skeptical and afraid despite your actions. After all, dragons are still among the most dangerous and feared creatures in the world, and you doubt any of your subjects have ever seen one before. They haven't been around since Triumvar Lotanor's time. It's time to leave. My fate is at the horizon. You confess to the dragon as it enjoys your attention. You walk around the beast's head and jump on its neck. Everyone is in shock, staring slack-jawed at a scene nobody thought possible. "Fly," you order the beast. The reptile replies to your command with a cry of joy. With a mighty push of its paws, the creature leaps into the air, spreading its wings and heading to the horizon. As you fly, you try to savor the amazing feeling. Sitting on the dragon's back, hundreds of feet high in the sky, it's liberating, unique, and priceless. You focus on the goal at hand. You have to annihilate the resistance, smoke them out, and make sure they can never gain back some power against you. You don't intend to completely destroy the forest. You know your man, and Kalimo, may already be in there, and you wouldn't want to risk losing him. You haven't heard from him since he left, but could just be busy with the missions you have entrusted to him. You hope you'll find him in Remagast when you return. Therefore, you decide to catch the Resistance's attention without destroying the whole forest. Ordering the dragon to breathe its fire at the border, the reptile complies with your command, first aiming at the west border and then at the east. This way, you'll be able to spot the rebels as they're fleeing, attacking them mercilessly. It doesn't take long before people start running out of the woods. Most of them seem to be headed southeast, while another group leaves from the northeast, heading towards you. Many of them are armed with staves, and you recognize several wizards. But you can't find Raymond, who might be with the first group. The two spots are several miles apart. Attacking one of the groups would most likely allow the other to escape. You're here to crush their hopes. You need to choose who to attack. The fugitives headed southeast, or the closest group, made up mostly of wizards. Facing Raymond now is too dangerous. Besides, you have the chance to take out several wizards, which would greatly diminish the Resistance's forces. You can count 4 of them, probably 1 per element. You need to consider carefully how you'll tackle this, given you'll probably be exhausted by your 3rd spell. You identify their robes and their peculiarities. You have the chance to move swiftly, deciding who to attack first. They've just ran out of the woods and don't seem ready to face a dragon and its rider. Wit is necessary to face all 4 elements. Casting a spell from your dragon would truly be ideal. However, you must be clever. You need to start from the element most dangerous to you. Who will you attack first? Air. You conjure an earth spell, murmuring a few arcane words of power. You make the ground quake under the white-clad air wizard's feet. The man is gripped as if standing in quicksand. His movements are impaired. Your spell is much faster than the natural phenomenon it's mimicking, though, and in mere seconds, the wizard is sucked into the ground. However, the other 3 sorcerers jump back to avoid the trap. The fire wizard is the quickest. He unleashes a flame from his staff, which heads straight to you. That was a predictable move. You can simply respond with a stronger spell and destroy it. That was obviously the right call. You're the most powerful wizard Kael'Sanar has ever seen, and your water cone puts out the fire and the wizard who conjured it. Now, you can focus on your next move against the water wizard. What shall you do? Dragonfire. You order the dragon to breathe its flames against the water wizard, who's wearing a blue waving robe. He tries to shield himself with a water barrier, but he's blown away in a single shot. Your move was smart. It allowed you to cast a tornado against the only wizard left standing, the brown-clad earth wizard. The cyclone lifts him up high in the air, hurling him away as he screams hundreds of feet high. As he drops back to the ground, you can hear his bones breaking even from your seat on the dragon's back. You can finally take a look at the southeast quadrant, but the fugitives are already gone, most likely together with Raymond. You spur the dragon in that direction, but there's nothing to see for hundreds of feet. Besides, the last spell wore you out. Are they hiding somewhere? Did they take a secret passage running through the hills? You decide you'll find out when you'll attack Satrapor. You've damaged the resistance enough for today, and you couldn't proceed with your attacks anyway. It's time to head back to Remegast to wait for Ankalimo's return. You've come back to celebrate your victory. The soldiers raise their spears to the sky, chanting your name. Amongst feasts, songs, and dances, the celebrations continue for a few days. Now, you have to wait for Ankalimo. You trust him. He shall certainly bear good news and will have carried out the tasks you assigned him. It's been more than a month now. It's time to move on Satrapor. Finally, Ankalimo comes back with 2 men who you presume are worthy of his trust. You are in the throne room, and the 3 bow down to you respectfully. Welcome back, my friend. You welcome him with a smile.
Thank you, Leon. It was hard, but I hope you'll find I've served you with honor.
I'm sure you have. Rise. Ankalimo goes on to introduce the 2.
These are Sargon and Garrett. I chose them to lead the army. They're strong, reliable, and precise. They are extremely experienced and will follow your orders to the detail, if well paid.
So, they're mercenaries. But they stood out in Ankalimo's eyes. Good. Now, leave us. I'll call for you later, and we'll talk tactics and preparations. Ankalimo, you stay. The two bow down and oblige. Your friend's face suddenly clouds. Something didn't go according to plan. You can ask him about the resistance, or about the search for the Sword of Ruin. Where is the Sword of Ruin?
I couldn't find it,
Replies the assassin.
I thought I did, but it was a fake.
And Kalimo follows. We'll have to do without. Retrieving it was the hardest of the tasks I assigned you. I'm not mad.
I'm sorry, Leon.
You dismiss the issue with a gesture. Anything else?
No, Leon.
What news do you have of the Resistance?
I managed to infiltrate them, but I had to abandon the mission. They are a lot. Some of them wizards, and Raymond is set on taking you down. But they have some internal struggles that could play out in our favor.
What do you mean?
I met someone who hates wizards, you included. He's killing all the sorcerers in the Resistance, and will weaken them.
Anything else?
No, Leon.
All right, you're free to go. Call for Sargon and then Garrett. I'd like to confer with them individually.
As you wish.
And Kalimo beats his fist to the chest and leaves the throne room. A few moments later, Sargon walks in. He has an imposing physique. He must be a formidable warrior. You study him, appeased by Ankalimo's choice. You would like to know more about him. What's your first question? How will you train the soldiers? How will you train the soldiers? Sargon looks straight into your eyes and replies,
First of all, I'll teach them discipline and mindfulness. You can't master a weapon if you can't master your mind. Physical training is important, of course, but the two things go hand in hand. Besides, mastering the sword requires a lot of study.
You smile, as you are already well acquainted with swordsman's training. You find his answer satisfying and move on to the next. Should you ask him how many men he has commanded, or how he will face the battle? How will you face the battle?
We shall fight in the most honorable way, but we will crush the enemy without hesitation.
His combat philosophy is interesting. He reminds you a bit of Daragast. You have one last question. How would you handle an enemy who's yielded, or whom you've already defeated on the field?
If he yields, he will be taken prisoner. I shall judge his crimes, also based on the prisoner's rank. I wouldn't sentence someone to death just because he was my opponent on the battlefield. Unless my lord prefers differently, of course.
Good, Sargon. You've convinced me. Now, send Garrett in. The commander bows down once more and beats his fist on his chest.
As you wish, my lord.
Garrett. Now it's Garrett's turn. He's a man who inspires respect, and he has the authoritative attitude of one who's used to commanding. Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, my lord. How can I be of help?
Straight to the point, as you expected. You begin your questioning right away. How will you train the soldiers?
Iron discipline and lashing should they not follow orders.
Garrett replies. You wouldn't have expected this answer from a man like him. You find his answer satisfying and move on to the next. Should you ask him how many men he has commanded, or how he will face the battle? How will you face the battle?
Enemies must be crushed and overwhelmed, my lord. Better if on the field. It would be a show of force to whoever might oppose you in the future. They would shiver at the mere sight of your army.
His combat's philosophy seems efficient enough. How would you handle an enemy who's yielded, or whom you've already defeated on the field?
I would follow my lord's orders.
He continues, shrugging. He's a true and proper war machine. No hesitating allowed. You like him. Good, Garrett. This should be enough. Now, leave. I'll call for you later. The commander bows down once more and beats his fist on his chest.
As you wish, my lord.
Communicate the mercenaries' compensation. You sit alone in your throne room to think. You're pleased. Both Sargon and Garrett will be great commanders. You summon them once more, this time together. What do you think of Ankalimo, and of what lies ahead? Garrett speaks first. As you imagined, he's more practical.
Your assassin is precise and lethal. If he chose to serve you, that means he sees you as a great leader. We trust him.
It's not mere ass-kissing. It's a show of respect. Here's my proposal. You shall have 100,000 gold coins each. The two mercenaries pale. They didn't expect this much.
My lord, we accept. Our word is our bond.
Garrett replies. I'm sure. Now, you must plan your march on Satrapur. Finally, the time you've been waiting for so long has come. You waited and planned. Now, you must act. And you will do that with all your wisdom. You've planned out the march to Satrapur in every minor detail. But you won't be leading the army yourself. You will leave this burden to the commanders and their capable hands. After all, you've chosen them because they should be able to carry out the tasks you assign them. You have to make some important decisions regarding the army's march, namely, the siege weapons that must be built and the equipment the troops should carry. It looks like a simple task, but it really isn't. Besides, you decided you'll be handling the provisioning yourself, so you'll have to send convoys to the allied cities. You head to the city's smithy, where the blacksmiths are hard at work forging the weapons for the soldiers. But they shall also create some additional items of your choosing to correctly equip the troops. Setting aside the normal material, you need to understand what needs an en masse troop march might have. While the provisioning will also be supplied by the allied cities, you will be providing several tools directly. You have to keep in mind that all soldiers will bring with them the things you'll commission now, in addition to the armor and weapons. Remember that not everyone has horses to rely on, and that there aren't enough wagons to load the extra material. Misericord, you stop by the blacksmith and are greeted with reverence by him and his subordinates. As you enter, the workers stop briefly. Please continue. I only need to speak with your boss. The man leaves the workers temporarily, following you out of the smithy.
I'm at your command, my lord.
I need you to build some misericords for my army, 1 per soldier. I wouldn't want the army to face hostile forces along the way and not having the means to crush the wounded and dying. If I didn't destroy all those who oppose me, I might come to regret it later on.
As you wish, my lord. Is there anything else I can do?
You quickly think about how you're about to lay siege to a fortress, so you could probably use some more material to load on the wagons. It depends on how you'll want to attack the walls and on the strategy that will be adopted for the attack. Hooks. I need you to build several hooks for my soldiers. They need to be tough enough to allow them to easily climb over walls, as well as for being tied to thick and sturdy ropes.
As you wish, my lord.
How long will it take? You ask impatiently.
A few days, my lord. We won't let you down.
I hope you're right. You tell him while taking your leave, heading to the Master Builders to manage the second part of your siege strategy. To the Master Builders. Once out of the smithy, you head to the Master Builder, who is working hard on several siege engines. The basic tools are normally built in bulk, but other things must be taken care of along the way. As a matter of fact, some of the builders and some of the blacksmiths will go along with the army in case of any last-minute needs. Now, you have to prioritize. There are many machines that can be built, and they will be the real issue for the soldiers, as their safe transportation will be crucial. As you talk privately with the Master Builder, you try to focus on what you'll need the most. First of all, you can only take one type of machine with you, so you have to choose between ballistas and catapults. There is no time to build both, and most importantly, you don't have enough resources, so you must choose which siege engine to rely on. You must build several catapults. There must be enough to lay siege to Satrapur, accounting for the several breakages along the way. Can you do it?
Of course, my lord. It will take a while and many people to do everything, but we'll manage. Is there anything else?
Actually, you could use something else. Would you like to have the Master Builder also create some siege towers or ladders to climb up the walls of Satrapur? Ladders. You'll have to build several thousand ladders for the siege. They must be high enough to get on top of the walls, with sturdy support so they don't break as soldiers climb. Also, they must be maneuverable. Make as many as you can. I would account for a good number of them to break along the way and during the battle.
We won't let you down, my lord,
replies the Master Builder. Now, get back to work. I have other business to attend to. You head back to the palace, where you shut yourself in your lavish and silent chambers. Sitting at the desk, you start writing several dispatches. You need to start preparing the provisioning and the supplies. The supply chain line has to be perfect. The missives you're writing will be entrusted to messengers who will take them to the allied cities, so that the orders will have been received before the army even marches out. Everyone must be ready to support you for this war. You outline a series of joined supply chains that will come in from other cities. As there is no sea nearby along the route, you won't have a naval chain. Luckily, most of the march won't take place in a hostile environment, so there is little chance that rebel forces will get in your way. Finally, you send off the dispatches so that the convoys will be ready by the time your army marches out. You almost didn't notice how stressed out you are. The tension is visible even on your face. You'd like everything to go as planned, but first, you want the army to leave without you. You'll catch up with them later on, after you're sure everything is working out. You send for a couple of courtesans to be brought to your room to entertain your manly needs for the rest of the day. Soon your vengeance shall be complete, but you don't like to see it as revenge. You prefer to think of it as justice. This is for everything that's been taken from you when you were a child, and for the people who died because of it, like Hesperia, your mentor, who mothered you. There's even Daragast, the man who taught you so much, only to disappear, grieving for the loss of his beloved. How could you blame him? Where is he now? Would he have joined you if you had found him? There are too many questions left unanswered. Finally, you will get the chance to settle all your scores. Your thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a light knocking on the door. You invite into your room the two wonderful ladies on the threshold. There, you consider bitterly. They really took everything from me. Even the ability to court a woman. There's only courtesans and whores for me. After spending most of the night with the two prostitutes, you dismiss them and try to get some sleep. You leave the curtains open, letting the dim moonlight filter through the room. You fall asleep relaxed, untroubled by the upcoming battle. Almost 2 weeks pass by. You summon your generals, instructing them on the march south. The resistance is probably preparing as well, but you've received some comforting news from your allies. Everything is ready, both regarding the supply line and the march on Satrapur. You climb on your dragon's back and fly off. As the troops will march, you shall monitor the situation from above. You trust your two new generals. The first few days are slow and uneventful. Finally, you reach a clearing, right before the Ismaran forest. From your position, you spotted the legions of the resistance. They're ready to block your way. Even your scouts confirm the enemy's presence. You have no idea who is guiding them, but it's of no consequence. You're about to deal the resistance a hard blow. You glide down to arrange the battle. You're in an open field and must confer with the scouts. You have to harshly defeat these enemies. Nobody can stand between you and Satrapur. What information do you find most important? Confer with the scouts. Now, you must issue your orders to your generals. You need to consider the information you've gathered and the units you'll attack yourself. Take care of the foot soldiers. I shall take care of the foot soldiers while you deal with the cavalry and archers. Our troops shall form compact and tight deployments, but first, our archers must attack the enemy forces. The cavalry will attack the flanks so as to cut off any escape.
As you wish, my lord.
Both generals sound in unison. Both then take their place and start issuing commands. Once you've identified your victims, you're ready to unleash hell on Earth. You jump back up on your dragon's back and fly over your enemies. The creature roars fiercely. From above, you wait for your army to take its position while studying the opponents as they line up. You won't allow them to finish their deployment. You spur your dragon and attack the enemy soldiers. The creature starts breathing fire upon your command onto the soldiers who try to escape death in vain. As panic spreads through their ranks, anguished cries rise up to the sky. It only took one well-thought strike with your dragon to destroy a large part of the opponent's army. You head back to the rear of your army's formation to watch the battle from a privileged position. Stay behind the lines. This battle will show our strength and preparation. You shall systematically deal with the 3 units attacking us, wiping all of them out. Our troops shall form compact and tight deployments, but first, our archers must attack the enemy forces. The cavalry will attack the flanks to cut off any escape.
As you wish, my lord.
Both generals sound in unison. Both then take their place and start issuing commands. They're well organized and know their way around the army. You have no need to intervene. Your army is a perfect war machine. Suddenly, Cries of anguish start resounding among your men's ranks. A pack of large animals is tearing your troops apart. You have no choice but to take down the Grey Storms before they inflict even more losses. You've underestimated the strength of the creatures. Now, you need to make up for your mistake. Attack the Grey Storms. You spur your dragon against the mighty creatures. You need to hurry. The Grey Storms are wreaking havoc among your lines. Flying over them, you order your dragon to breathe its fire on them and their knights. You soon have the best of them. However, you notice an outstanding sylph on one of the rides who calls the retreat. You scared your enemies away, decimating their numbers. You let them run, enjoying their defeat. Now, they know you have a dragon, and even though they'll try to prepare to face it, they will never be able to oppose its power. After many hardships and long travel, you finally reach Satrapur. Even though you're fully rested, you know you should avoid wasting spells. It's likely you'll face some formidable foes. You start issuing your commands to the troops, finally letting the generals do the rest of the work. Preparing for the siege, you're sure the city gates must have been closed, shut already. Setting up the siege engines, readying the camp, and receiving the supplies will take all day. Your enemies will have time to make their arrangements, but so will you. Your scouts keep patrolling the perimeter to avoid any nightly sortie from the city. Your assault will start at dawn. You wake up just before daybreak and head to your dragon, still in deep slumber. Its heavy breathing and constant deep rumbling make it a fearsome creature, even now. Caressing its snout, the creature wakes up. You can feel its thoughts, thanks to your bond. You've learned to get along, but the reptile is not happy being subdued. It's of little importance to you. You're still pleased by the power you exercise over the animal. You even took care to let the city know of your pet, flying over the army as you approached it. The time has come, my friend. The dragon bends down his neck, and you climb on his back, wielding your sword and staff. Finally, you fly over Satrapur at first light. Your commanders are restless. The army starts marching, and the archers take their positions beside the siege weapons as you admire everything from above. Flaming arrows start flying from both sides, taking souls. The battle cries rise up to your ears as your blood boils. Should you jump into the action with your dragon right now, or wait for the first outbreaks to tire? Wait for the troops to get tired. Getting mixed up in the battle right away doesn't seem like a good idea. You'd rather see how the siege goes for a while, and you keep at a safe height. The defending army seems to be holding quite well against your forces, and you can't overwhelm them, despite your siege engines. You glide down to intimidate the enemy, and arrows start raining down on your dragon. You didn't see this coming. It's time to attack. However, as you command the reptile to turn for the city, you notice its wings are severely wounded. You crash down to the ground, in a city square, destroying houses, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. You roll to the ground, caked in debris and dragon blood. Standing up, you can only hear the uproar surrounding you. Soldiers are swarming your way. You're outnumbered and hurt, but you can still defend yourself as your ally groans painfully. You could summon an elemental, which would certainly buy you enough time for another spell, or you could conjure a ring of fire around you to block the enemy's sight. Ring of Fire. Beating your staff to the ground, you conjure a ring of fire. Your magic is imposing. The flames rise to the roofs, catching all the soldiers' attention, distracting them from the walls. As you're getting ready to strike again, the soldiers' yells suddenly stop, and your flaming wall grows weaker until it vanishes. As the smoke clears and the silence grows louder, you spot a rapier-wielding figure headed your way. The man's confident stride gives away his identity. It's time for the rest. Daragast, your old mentor, stands before you. He saved you from Triumvar, together with Hesperia, and in a way shaped you into what you are today. You stare into each other's eyes. Your feelings are somewhat mixed now. It's time to settle all your scores now. Daragast's main goal in life has always been to find an opponent strong enough to defeat him in a duel. Maybe his time has finally come. Your old friend is wielding 2 rapiers, so you unsheathe your sword and wield your staff. I see you found my old rapier! You shout at him.
It was meant for you, but I had to wield it against Triumvar and Riotor San to save you. And now, I'm wielding it against you.
Daragast replies, Well, aren't you proud? Daragast shakes his head bitterly.
I would have rather been proud of you. Stop this madness. Order your men to retreat. You have a huge power. Use it to bring peace.
Take a look around, Daragast! This city is mine by birthright! It was taken from me! I had to flee to avoid being killed with my parents! Now, I am taking it back, and even you won't stop me! You're determined. And the words of your old mentor cut through deeper than any blade.
There's no choice then. We have to fight.
Daragast prepares for the fight as you both assume fighting stances. You look at each other carefully, trying to spot any weaknesses. It seems like Daragast is letting you have the first move. You have to seize this opportunity. Will you attack him using your magic, or would you rather fight him with weapons? Use your sword and staff. You attack him with all your might, using both your sword and rotating your staff. Daragast is the best fighter in Kael'Sanar. Defeating him won't be easy. You barely scratch his arm and force him to lower his guard. It's time to use a spell. What element should you rely on? The heat of the battle led you into making a mistake. But this doesn't mean you won't win this match. One of the stones set on the sword's hilt absorbs your spell, and Daragast springs on you to attack once more, despite his wound. He slashes down at you with the Sword of Ruin, as he carries a weaker middle blow with his rapier. You have to parry the Sword of Ruin. Will you do so with your staff, or will you use your blade? Parry with the sword. You chose wisely. The rapier clashes against the steel, and you wiggle out of the attacks. There's no time to be wasted in this titanic fight. You have to choose your next move right away. You could pirouette, rotating your staff to strike your opponent at the head, or to disarm him of the rapier. Disarm him with your staff. You opt for the easiest strategy. With a quick, firm wrist movement, you force the polished rapier out of the warrior's hand. Daragast didn't expect this. Now you have the lead. Should you use a spell to blind him, or would you rather press him on with a series of fast-paced blows? It's time to finish him, so you press him on with lightning-fast staff and sword assaults. Daragast is forced to back out. His breathing is heavy. You're wearing him out. Finally, he loses his grip on the Sword of Ruin, dropping it to the floor. For a moment, you exchange glances. It doesn't last long, but it's enough for you to decide what to do next. Try to kill him with a spell. You have too big an advantage to waste it. Quickly, you beat your staff on the ground, pronouncing one single arcane word of power. The air condenses into 3 blades which mill against Daragast. The fighter tries to parry your enchantment, but it's too fast. The 3 air blades overwhelm him, tearing him to pieces. Your old mentor collapses to the ground, defeated. Dead. You'd like to rejoice, but you faint and drop to the ground as well. Your 3rd enchantment exhausted you. Will you regain your strength before being captured? How will the siege proceed? One last thought goes to your faithful friend, Ankalimo. He gave his life for your cause. You order a statue to be made and placed in Satrapor's main square to honor his memory. It shall be a testimony to the darkness and virtues that live within the human soul. Something awakens your senses, and you slowly stand up. You haven't yet recovered your strengths, nor your magical powers. However, you have defeated your opponent, and you're alive. The battle rages on around you, amidst shouts, smoke, and clashing blades. You grab your sword, coughing. The staff won't do any good now. You have to find out how the battle is proceeding and how your men are faring. As you're heading to the bastions, you run into Ankalimo, your faithful friend.
Leon, you're alive!
You exchange a warrior's handshake and hug. I've got a tough skin. How's the battle proceeding? You ask the elf. As your friend is about to answer, a loud blast and the clashing of steel overcome his words. Your men crushed the city's defenses and are overwhelming the enemy. You join the battle. Boosting the courage and morale of your soldiers. Within a few hours, you arise, the master of Satrapor. The city shows its scars of war. Columns of smoke rise to the sky. The situation doesn't seem too dire to you, though, as you walk through the hallways of a familiar palace, one you've been away from for so long. As you saw the chambers that belonged to your parents, you couldn't help but shed a few tears. Boots echo in the silence of the palace as you summon your trusted commanders and Ankalimo to the throne room. It's time to decide what is to come next. Your messengers are waiting to dispatch your will. Do you want to rule all of Kael'Sanar, or just keep your birth town? Satrapor has always been your target, but letting go of the power you've acquired isn't easy. Keep Satrapor only. Dispatch my message to all the kingdoms. I have no intention to rule over them. Satrapor is my one and only home. I won't wage war against anyone else. From now on, there shall be only peace and prosperity. The scribes draft your announcement, and Ankalimo leans in to whisper into your ear.
What shall be done of the king we deposed?
This is another thorny issue. You could exile him. You got what you wanted. You have no reason to execute him. However, if you were to show weakness now, especially before an assassin like your elf friend, it could be dangerous. What are you going to do? Have Ankalimo assassinate him secretly. Make sure he doesn't survive to tomorrow. The king may not know it yet, but he's about to commit suicide in his cell. You whisper in your trusted hitman's ear. You don't want any enemies nearby, but you'd also like to avoid being seen as a murderer by your own people. You bask in the golden dream of your new condition, hoping in a rosy future. Leon's ending.
And so the story of the mage come to an end. But who knows, many new stories await, so like, subscribe, and I see you in next story.